Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Today Draft-a-thon presented by Snickers. I'm Jamey Eisenberg, that's Dave Richard, and joining us for the first time tonight is our buddy Chris Towers. Heath is going to jump off and get on the YouTube channel starting at 8 o'clock, but we're here raising money for the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Please continue to send us your donations. Again, stjude.org/FFT is the URL to use. You could go to the QR code as well. We're trying to raise money. Our goal is $100,000. We're almost there. We're going to continue to try to raise that money until midnight Eastern tonight, and hopefully help you get ready for your fantasy leagues as well. Joining us now as well as part of the Fantasy Football Today Draft-a-thon, it's one of the best minds, best people in the industry, Mike Wright of the Fantasy Footballers. Mike, thank you for joining us here on our Fantasy Football Today Draft-a-thon. Now you get to play Professor. Chris also gets to play the role of Professor and grade a mock draft that we did as part of our Fantasy Football Today Draft-a-thon. And Mike, your buddy Andy Holloway had a role in this draft. He's actually the 2019 champion. I am the 2020 champion. We are the only two people to win in this league, so you can critique our teams. Dave is going to compete for his first title as well. So let's go through the first round, and we'll show you guys how the first round unfolded. We're going to try and get through 5 rounds here, and this is a 12-team PPR league. And Andy had the second pick. He took Dalvin Cook. You see, it's pretty standard here with how the draft unfolded. Mike, I'll give you the first word. I hope you can see the graphics where you are. Any surprises to you in the first round? Devontae Adams going 7th overall, Travis Kelce going 8th overall. You see it's mostly running backs, no surprise there, but anything stand out to you?
Not really that I would say anything is egregious, but I mean the biggest takeaway is Saquon Barkley there at number 12. I mean, this is a room full of really sharp people, and so that doesn't surprise me that he fell. But you, Jamey, going Antonio Gibson over Saquon Barkley with the hopes, the promises that, well, not really promise from the team, but the promises that we are making to the fantasy football community that Antonio Gibson is going to be all of that. He's going to get in on third down finally. That's bold. Like that is some intestinal fortitude to take Antonio Gibson over the known 3-down role that Saquon Barkley has. I understand the Giants are going to be a hot mess, and I'm very in on Antonio Gibson as well. That's surprising to see in an actual live draft situation.
You know, I've gotten to the point, Mike, where it's the group of Gibson, Barkley, Mixon, Taylor for me as well, Najee Harris. They all kind of feel the same, in a lot of ways. You have concerns with Barkley, you have concerns with Taylor with the Colts situation, what's happening there. Najee's a rookie. Mixon, we know the concerns that certainly have gone on with him. So Gibson to me is a guy that's got the rocket ship pointing up, and the fact that I don't know if he's necessarily going to play on third downs, but he may play a little bit more. Offense seems like it's getting better, and I'm just looking at the players that I want to have on my fantasy team, and Antonio Gibson is one of those guys. Chris, I know for you probably would have taken Joe Mixon in that spot, though, right?
Yeah, my thing with Joe Mixon is, one, he's never hurt me before, because this is the first year that I'm actually higher on him than consensus, and it's just because the situation's never been all that good for Joe Mixon. We've always been hyping this talent. We think he's this special player who can overcome the situation. Well, I think he's pretty good, but now he's got the situation. He doesn't need to overcome a situation. With Gio Bernard gone, I think 70 targets might be the floor for Joe Mixon. So if I'm in a PPR league, I can get Joe Mixon at the 1-2 turn. I'm happy with that. If I can get him in the second round, I'm thrilled.
And he goes in the second round. I took Jonathan Taylor in the second round. So, if you're debating Taylor versus Gibson, you see how it worked out for me going running back, taking those two guys there. Dave, you were also in this draft. Your first pick was Travis Kelce. Your second pick was Stephon Diggs. So typically a running back guy, you avoided the position with your first two selections.
I decided to do something a little bit different and take some players that I hadn't taken in previous drafts, and just to see how it would turn out and see how my team would go. So this is an example of what your team would look like if you do end up not taking a running back with your first two picks. And assuming that Stephon Diggs is A-OK to start the season, I'm going to be real happy having one of the best tight ends, the best tight end in PPR leagues, and one of the top 5 wide receivers to start my team.
Mike, you see what Andy was doing there with his team. So Dalvin Cook in round 1, DK Metcalf in round 2. We could throw up round 3 as well, and he goes back-to-back wide receivers with Allen Robinson as well. If you're picking in one of the first 4 or 5 spots, is that a strategy you guys like to do, or you in particular like to do, following what Andy did here, running back, receiver, knowing the receivers that typically fall to the end of round 2 and beginning of round 3?
I think that he was kind of pushed into it a little bit, just with the format of the 3 wide receivers, as we are This year in particular, it's really felt like if you can get two solid running backs to begin your draft, or if you're going to go Travis Kelce and a running back, that's been my preferred starts. So I think that the format lent it, it helped push Andy in that direction of going with DK Metcalf. I'm a little surprised that he didn't follow that up, in the third round. I don't want to get ahead of everything, but just kind of looking how it unfolded for him, he is one of the David Montgomery truthers. I mean, there's not a ton of them that remain after what he did to us at the beginning of his fantasy career. Maybe he gained some trust with that league-winning performance of last year at the end. But that's where it's surprising to me that he went DK Metcalf and followed that right up with Allen Robinson, where that running back, that starting running back and potential three-down guy, that well goes dry really, really quick in this year's, if you're following the ADP.
Now, I don't want you to make fun of your friend, but do you think maybe he just saw Bears and clicked on the wrong guy? He thought he was taking Montgomery, but he clicked on Robinson instead?
It's possible, but I don't know. I mean, he made that pick really quick, in 20 seconds. So I think he had a strategy and he was going forward with it.
Okay, so going running back, wide receiver. Dave, you went with Chris Carson in round 3, and Carson, Montgomery, James Robinson. All these guys are kind of getting bunched together a little bit. Maybe some people could look at Damian Harris. Obviously, Myles Gaskin goes in that group. Josh Jacobs. It's that whole kind of jumbled group of backs. Why Carson for you?
It's the last gasp group of running backs where you can look at him and say, okay, I could start this guy as a number 1 running back if I decide to start my team with a couple of non-running backs. And that's how I feel about Carson at this point. He is going to be the lead running back in Seattle. We know this offense is going to be a lot more quick passing type of a deal. And Carson can get in on that. We saw him last year make an impact in the passing game. We know he's going to be the goal line guy. He should dominate carries and playing time in that backfield so long as he's healthy. I'm comfortable taking him in round 3. I didn't want to take another receiver or quarterback there because I knew that when I came back in round 4, the running backs that were going to be left were not pretty.
But you did make a nice move in round 4 by taking Tyler Lockett. So you have 3 very good receiving options with Kelce, Diggs, and Lockett, along with Chris Carson. It's a good start. I went a little different route. I've kind of got away from this a little bit, Chris, by going 3 running backs my first 4 picks. But I knew that, as Mike said, this is a sharp group. We've got Chris Harris of Harris Football, Dave Heath, myself are in this draft, Jake Seeley of The Athletic, Nando DeFino of The Athletic, Eric Young, who's been around the fantasy industry, a professional wrestler, Joe Pisapia of Fantasy Pros, Scott Fish of the Scott Fish Bowl, Adam Rankin, Marcus Grant of the NFL Network, and obviously Andy Holloway of the Fantasy Footballers as well. So I wanted to get 3 running backs that I like, and as Mike could tell you, I took part in their fantasy MVP that they do on the Fantasy Footballers. Myles Gaskin was my dark horse candidate to be the MVP. But I started with 3 running backs along with Amari Cooper. I know you don't like that strategy, but if you walk away from your draft, Antonio Gibson, Myles Gaskin, and Jonathan Taylor with Amari Cooper, it's pretty good first 4 rounds.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, look, I wouldn't usually go 3 running backs in 4 rounds, but I've done it before. And if you're going to do it, that's the kind of approach you should go with. You should be looking for like a Myles Gaskin, a DeAndre Swift if he's there. The guys who catch passes, the guys who in a PPR league are going to have that upside where, even if their team falls out of the game, that might actually be better for their fantasy value because Myles Gaskin could get 6-7 targets in a game. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is I did see the Athletics Dolphins beat writer, whose name I can't remember right now.
He's a new guy.
Yeah, he mentioned Malcolm Brown's going to be the short yardage guy. Myles Gaskin will be the lead back. He said Savon Ahmed might be the 3rd down back.
It could be.
When you were at training camp, you said Myles Gaskin was the 2-minute guy. So
100%.
As long as he's got that kind of role in the passing game, I love taking him. It's just there's a little bit of risk there, but running backs in the 4th round, they bust about 50% of the time. So you've got risk no matter who you're taking.
Mike, I want to come to you on Andy's pick in the 4th round. He took Miles Sanders, a very polarizing, player for a lot of people. The training camp reports haven't exactly been great, dropping passes. Kenneth Gainwell getting first team opportunities. Boston Scott getting first team opportunities. Where do you guys come out on Miles Sanders?
Yeah, it's trying to follow the money that Philadelphia has put forth, and that was. It hasn't worked out, but they grabbed Kerryon Johnson off of waivers. Yeah, he's gone. They added Jordan Howard, and yeah, he's gone. But it felt like Philadelphia was trying to find something new, something that they can put out there with Miles Sanders. Now it's gonna be Miles, Boston and their new rookie Kenneth Gainwell, who's an incredible pass catcher. But this is why I was talking about. I was surprised that Andy went with that third wide receiver there, because now you're in that corner of, okay, well, I guess I'm taking Miles Sanders, or in this PPR format, you're going with the newer hotness of Gus Edwards or Damian Harris, knowing that both of those players, while they will be very competent and solid for your fantasy football team, they don't carry the upside of a true three-down, a pass-catching specialist in a PPR. So Miles Sanders there, I think the ADP value is fine, and he's someone that you can definitely play right away. He's not going to kill you, but he doesn't feel like someone who's going to take you over the top and really be a powerhouse running back for your fantasy team.
Right. What he could have done if he, played it out the way maybe you thought he could have, taking David Montgomery in the second round instead of taking Allen Robinson. Then he comes back in the third round, and instead of taking, in the third round taking Allen Robinson, the fourth round instead of taking Miles Sanders, he takes Adam Thielen there, who he took in the fifth round, and maybe another wide receiver in round 5, like Julio Jones, DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy. Those are the guys that were available. And it sounds like you probably like that build a little bit better.
Yeah, that's the way I would have gone.
Okay, so let's take a look at Andy's team so we can get the full scope and let Professor Mike Wright, the hitman, give a full grade on Andy's team here. So his quarterback is Tom Brady, Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders, his running backs, DK Metcalf, Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen. We do start 3 wide receivers. So those are his receiving trio of receivers. Tyler Higbee at tight end, Antonio Brown is his flex. And he's got Marvin Jones, James White, T.Y. Hilton, A.J. Green, Zach Pascal, and Josh Palmer on his bench. Is it just a requirement that you guys have to take one member of the Arizona Cardinals, so that's why he took A.J. Green?
That's actually not that's not an Arizona pick. That's an Andy is obsessed with A.J. Green. We all have those players that we can't let them go. So even if A.J. Green landed somewhere else, I'm sure Andy still would have been in on him. But to his credit, it's A.J. Green is interesting. He's left for dead in fantasy football drafts. Meanwhile, the Cardinals gave him a lot of money to come in and be the wide receiver 2 for this team. And I know we're excited for Rondale Moore, our new rookie here in Arizona, but A.J. Green is a proven guy. Look, like last year, that wasn't all his fault. He had one of the highest percentage of uncatchable targets in the league at the wide receiver position. So maybe A.J. Green does have a little bit of juice left, and getting him in the double-digit rounds for what he could become, which is honestly a weekly wide receiver 3 or a flex play, taking him in the 10th round, I think is a steal at this point.
All right, Mike, I just need a grade from you. Give me a grade on Andy's team.
Oh, come on, it's an A+.
No surprise.
Fly together.
That's loyalty right there. I like it. A+ for Andy's team. All right, let's take a look at Dave's team, and then Chris, you can grade it for us. So Dave, again, had the first-round pick of Travis Kelce, goes back-to-back with the receivers and Stephon Diggs, Tyler Lockett, and Jerry Jeudy right on his receiving core. He's got Dak Prescott at quarterback, Chris Carson, Raheem Mostert at the running back spots, and Melvin Gordon is his flex as of now. Sony Michel, Jonnu Smith, Mecole Hardman, Ramondre Stevenson, Rondale Moore, and Ty Johnson, correct?
Ty Johnson was my very last pick.
Is on his bench, so give him a grade.
I think that's a B+. This is almost a Chris Towers team. This is kind of my approach. 3 wide receivers with your first 5 picks. I like it.
All right, so Chris giving you a solid B+. Very, very strong.
Did he just say this is a Chris Towers team and then it's a B+?
Well, look, you
Like
got to
your
understand. You
team?
got to understand. I was a C+ student at best, so
Okay.
B+ is rarefied air.
All right, so B+ is the grade there. Mike's sticking with his guy, giving an A+. We'll just show you my roster real quick, and then Dave can give you a grade on that one. But I had the 11th pick. Like Mike told you, I went with Antonio Gibson, back-to-back running backs with Jonathan Taylor. Lamar Jackson's at quarterback, Amari Cooper, Jamar Chase, Jacoby Myers at the receiving core, T.J. Hockenson, Myles Gaskin, tight end and flex respectively. On the bench, A.J. Dillon, Marcus Callaway, Jarvis Landry, Sterling Shepard, Tony Jones, and Rashad Bateman. Dave, give me a grade.
It's an A. That team's great. I love the receiving depth that you've got. I like the running back depth that you've got. And this is what happens when you take 3 running backs with your first 3 picks. I believe that's what you did.
3 of my first 4.
3 of your first 4? Perfect. And Lamar Jackson on top of that, you know that he's going to fall in drafts with analysts. I wouldn't expect people to find Lamar Jackson where you got him in their home leagues. But I think that this is an excellent type of team and one that's going to be very competitive because of that running back depth.
I appreciate the grade. So an A+ for Andy, a B+ for Dave, an A for me.
Sorry, Dave.
Mike, we appreciate you joining us here on our Fantasy Football Today Draft-a-thon. Make sure to follow Mike at the FF Hitman on Twitter. And, of course, check out the Fantasy Footballers. They are one of the best podcasts in the business. They are fantastic. We hate losing every award to them, but you should Make sure you check them out wherever podcasts are available. Mike, thanks for joining us here on our Draftathon.
Appreciate it, guys. See you later.
All right. Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.